You know, one of the greatest discoveries of life is realizing that the world is not running out of opportunities. People are just running out of vision. Most people live as though there's not enough to go around, not enough money, not enough love, not enough success, not enough time. But the truth is, abundance has always been here. It's not something you chase, it's something you cultivate within. You see, an abundance mindset is not about the size of your wallet. It's about the size of your thinking. It's a way of seeing the world through the lens of possibility, not limitation. Most people spend their lives counting what's missing, while a few extraordinary people focus on multiplying what they already have. The difference is not in resources, it's in resourcefulness. Developing an abundance mindset means shifting from "I can't" to "How can I?" It's about trading envy for inspiration, fear for faith, and competition for creation. Because when you start believing that success is not a limited pie, that your win doesn't mean someone else's loss, you begin to unlock the kind of thinking that attracts growth, opportunity, and wealth into your life. So today, I want to take you on a journey from scarcity to sufficiency, from lack to plenty, from surviving to thriving. Because once your mind opens to abundance, your life will never be the same again. Everything begins in the mind. The way we see the world determines the way we experience it. Most people wake up each day with a scarcity lens. They believe there's never enough time, never enough money, never enough chances, and never enough luck. They operate from fear, thinking someone else's gain must be their loss. This mindset quietly drains energy, limits creativity, and blinds them to opportunities that are right in front of them. But the truth is, opportunities are everywhere. They're just invisible to those who believe in lack. Shifting from scarcity thinking to possibility thinking is not a motivational phrase. It's a transformation of perception. It's learning to say, there's always another way, even when life seems closed off. When you operate from possibility, you stop seeing problems as walls and start seeing them as doors waiting to be opened. Scarcity says, I can't afford that. Possibility asks, how can I afford that? Scarcity says, see, there's no time. Possibility replies, how can I make time? That shift in language changes everything. Because it moves your mind from shutdown mode to creative mode. The human brain is designed to find answers to the questions it's given. When you ask scarcity questions, you get scarcity answers. But when you ask possibility questions, your mind begins to search for solutions, ideas, and new paths forward. The people who create extraordinary lives aren't the ones with perfect circumstances. They're the ones who train their minds to think in possibilities no matter what's missing. When everyone else sees obstacles, they see opportunity in disguise. They don't wait for perfect timing. They make use of what they have and turn it into something valuable. A person with a possibility mindset doesn't dwell on lack, they focus on leverage. How to use their time, skills, and relationships in a way that multiplies results. This mindset doesn't ignore reality. It simply refuses to be controlled by limitation. It's about believing there's always more potential to discover, more to learn, and more to give. Even when failure comes, a possibility thinker doesn't see it as the end. They see it as feedback, a signal to adjust and improve. Scarcity thinking is reactive and defensive. Possibility thinking is proactive and creative. It says, let me see what's possible if I give my best. Shifting to this mindset requires awareness. You start noticing how often you speak in terms of limitation. Every time you say, I can't, or don't have, I'll never, you reinforce scarcity. But when you consciously choose words like, I can find a way, I'll figure it out, or there must be an art, there must be an opportunity here, you train your brain to operate from expansion instead of contraction. Ew. The more you practice this, the more it becomes your natural way of thinking. The real power of an abundant life begins with this shift. When you open your mind to possibility, you begin to attract ideas, people, and situations that align with your new belief system. You move from waiting for opportunities to creating them. You stop chasing certainty and start building confidence. Confidence in your ability to adapt, to grow, and to turn challenges into chances. One of the biggest traps that holds people back from living an abundant life is the habit of comparison. From an early age, we are conditioned to measure our worth by looking at what others have, their success, their possessions, their lifestyle, their progress. This mindset breeds scarcity because when your focus is always on what someone else is doing, you lose sight of what you are capable of creating. Growth can only happen when attention is turned inward. Abundance begins when you stop competing with others and start competing with your own potential. When you live in comparison, you're always chasing someone else's definition of success. You start running a race that was never yours to begin with. Possibility thinkers understand that true growth is deeply personal. You see, they measure success not by being better than others, but by being better than they were yesterday. It's a quiet confidence. The understanding that progress, no matter how small, is more valuable than perfection. You see, you may not be where you want to be yet, but if you're growing, learning, and improving, you're already winning. Focusing on growth means choosing self-awareness over self-judgment. Instead of asking, why am I not where they are? You ask, what can I learn from where I am? This question opens your mind to lessons instead of jealousy. You begin to recognize that every person has their own timing, their own challenges, and their own opportunities. What's meant for them can't take away what's meant for you. That truth alone frees you from the constant pressure to prove your worth. The abundance mindset thrives on progress because growth expands capacity. When you grow, your thinking expands, your confidence strengthens, and your ability to handle bigger challenges increases. The person you are becoming becomes more important than what you're achieving. Growth means developing patience with the process, trusting that consistent effort will eventually bear fruit. You start to enjoy the journey instead of constantly rushing toward the destination. When your focus shifts from comparison to growth, your energy changes. You no longer drain yourself trying to match someone else's highlight reel. You begin to find joy in your own improvement. You celebrate small wins, you honor effort, and you learn to be proud of persistence. This mindset creates peace because it removes the constant anxiety of never being enough. The moment you stop comparing, you gain back the time and energy you once wasted on self-doubt. That energy becomes fuel for creation. Growth. Focused people are also generous in spirit. They don't envy others' success, they admire it. They understand that someone else's victory is proof that success is possible. They use others' achievements as inspiration rather than competition. This kind of thinking builds relationships instead of resentment. It allows collaboration to replace rivalry. And that's where real abundance begins to multiply. Every time you choose to grow instead of compare, you elevate your mindset. You create space for learning, creativity, and opportunity to flow into your life. You stop being pulled by insecurity and start being guided by purpose. Growth gives you direction. Comparison only gives you distraction. Gratitude is the foundation of an abundant life. It is the quiet power that transforms ordinary days into blessings and ordinary people into creators. Most individuals spend their lives focusing on what they lack, the money they don't have, the job they wish for, the recognition they crave. But abundance doesn't begin with acquisition. It begins with appreciation. When you learn to be thankful for what you already have, you attract more of what you value. Gratitude shifts your energy from deficiency to sufficiency, from frustration to fulfillment. It teaches your mind to see possibilities where others see problems. When you wake up each morning and choose to focus on what's right instead of what's wrong, you immediately raise your vibration. You begin the day from a place of abundance rather than lack. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a perspective, a decision to recognize the value in every moment, every lesson, and every opportunity. Even in challenging times, gratitude helps you see that life is still working for you, not against you. You realize that setbacks are setups for growth, and obstacles are invitations to strengthen your character. This awareness turns pain into purpose. The power of gratitude lies in its ability to rewire your thinking. A grateful mind cannot coexist with a fearful mind. When you are deeply thankful, you stop worrying about losing what you have, because you know that even if things change, you still possess something greater, the ability to grow, learn, and begin again. Gratitude turns your focus away from scarcity. Instead of saying, "I don't have enough," you begin to say, "I have more than I thought." This shift not only brings peace, but also opens the door to greater creativity, because your mind is no longer clouded by worry. Practicing gratitude also improves how you relate to others. When you appreciate people, instead of taking them for granted, you create stronger connections and attract positive energy into your environment. A thankful heart sees the good in others, forgives faster, and celebrates more often. Gratitude strengthens trust, and trust multiplies abundance. It creates a circle of giving and receiving that keeps life flowing effortlessly. You stop waiting for big things to happen before you feel happy and begin finding joy in small details. A kind word, a sunrise, a lesson learned. Living with gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging imperfection with grace. It's about saying, I may not have everything I want, but I am blessed with everything I need to start. This mindset builds resilience. It allows you to remain calm in uncertainty and hopeful in adversity. The more you practice it, the more your mind focuses on opportunity instead of lack. What you appreciate truly does appreciate. It grows in value and influence. When gratitude becomes your daily habit, abundance becomes your natural state. You start realizing that wealth is not just measured in money, but in peace, growth, love, and purpose. Gratitude opens your eyes to how much you already possess and reminds you that every moment carries something worth cherishing. An abundant mindset is built on the constant pursuit of growth, and that growth comes from continuous learning and personal development. Life rewards those who are curious, who keep stretching their minds beyond comfort, and who refuse to stay the same. When you stop learning, you stop expanding, and when you stop expanding, your opportunities begin to shrink. The difference between a life of scarcity and a life of abundance often lies in whether you treat learning as an event or as a lifelong commitment. Those who see education as an ongoing journey are the ones who keep evolving with every challenge they face. Continuous learning means more than reading books or attending seminars. It's the mindset of asking better questions, observing life closely, and extracting wisdom from every experience. It's about being humble enough to admit that you don't know everything and confident enough to keep improving. The person who invests time in growth understands that knowledge multiplies value. When you develop yourself, you don't just add skill, you add depth, insight, and resilience. You become someone who can handle more, create more, and give more. Personal development builds abundance because it expands your sense of capability. Each new skill learned, each habit mastered, and each belief refined increases your potential to create better outcomes. It strengthens your confidence because you begin to trust your ability to adapt. When you grow, life opens up. Situations that once seemed overwhelming start to feel manageable when opportunities that once felt out of reach begin to move closer. Growth gives you options, and options create abundance. Learning also protects you from fear. Most fear comes from ignorance, not knowing what to do or how to respond. But when you commit to learning, you replace fear with awareness. You start seeing challenges as puzzles rather than problems. You stop feeling trapped by circumstances and start feeling empowered by possibilities. Every time you expand your knowledge, you expand your control over your environment. You realize that while you can't change everything around you, you can always change yourself. And that's where your real power lies. Personal development is also an act of self-respect. When you invest in your growth, you're telling yourself that you're worth improving. It's a declaration that you believe in your own potential. People with an abundance mindset understand that success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. You attract what you are prepared to handle. If you want more, you must become more. That's the law of growth. Continuous learning also keeps life exciting. It keeps your mind fresh and your spirit alive. It helps you adapt in a world that's constantly changing. Those who keep learning never grow stagnant. They stay relevant, creative, and resourceful. Abundance flows toward those who stay open to new ideas, who listen, who observe, and who keep refining themselves every single day. The more you grow, the more you realize there's always more to learn. And in that endless curiosity lies the true wealth of an abundant mind. The people you surround yourself with have a profound impact on the way you think, act, and believe. Human beings naturally absorb the energy, attitudes, and beliefs of those around them, often without even realizing it. If you spend your time with people who constantly talk about what's missing, who complain, or who doubt possibility, you'll start to mirror that energy. But when you surround yourself with abundance-minded people, those who think big, act boldly, and see opportunities instead of obstacles, your thinking begins to expand. Their belief in growth and possibility becomes contagious, influencing your mindset in powerful ways. An abundance-minded person doesn't just talk about what's possible, they live it. They inspire others through action. They push you to rise higher, not by criticizing your flaws, but by showing you what's achievable. When you share your goals and dreams with people who think abundantly, they don't tell you it's unrealistic. They help you find ways to make it real. They remind you that success is not limited, that there's more than enough for everyone willing to put in the work. Being around such energy turns your doubts into determination. It gives you courage to take risks and persistence to keep going when the journey gets difficult. On the other hand, scarcity-minded people often live in fear of loss. They focus on competition instead of collaboration, envy instead of admiration. They see someone else's success as a threat rather than proof of possibility. Spending too much time in that environment slowly shrinks your thinking. You begin to play small to fit in, and your creativity becomes constrained by the limits of their vision. That's why it's essential to be intentional about who you spend time with. Energy is transferable. If you spend time in rooms full of optimism, belief, and growth, that energy begins to shape your own perception. Choosing your circle wisely doesn't mean cutting people off without compassion. It means protecting your mental environment. You can still love people who think small, but you must spend more time with those who challenge you to grow. Seek out mentors, leaders, and friends who are driven by purpose. Listen to people who talk about solutions, not just problems. Build relationships with those who celebrate your progress and encourage your potential. The right people won't compete with your success. They'll multiply it. Surrounding yourself with abundance-minded individuals also keeps you accountable. When you're part of a group that's constantly striving for improvement, mediocrity becomes uncomfortable. You naturally begin to raise your standards. You start learning faster, taking bolder steps, and thinking on a bigger scale. Conversations with such people don't drain you. They energize you. They open your imagination, helping you see possibilities that once felt out of reach. Environment shapes belief. The more time you spend with those who operate from abundance, the more you begin to see life as full of options, growth, and potential. You stop worrying about scarcity and start believing that your success adds to the world's success. Surrounding yourself with abundance-minded people isn't just about networking. It's about alignment. It's about choosing a community that reflects the mindset and future you want to create. Giving is one of the most powerful ways to activate abundance in your life. The act of giving creates a flow of energy, a cycle that connects you to others, to opportunity, and to growth. Most people think that abundance comes from accumulation, from holding on tightly to what they have, but true abundance is sustained by circulation. When you give, whether it's your time, your knowledge, your kindness, or your resources, you send a signal to life that you already have more than enough. That signal attracts more. It tells the universe you are not living in fear of loss, but in confidence of plenty. Giving doesn't have to be grand or material. Sometimes, it's as simple as offering encouragement, sharing wisdom, or being generous with your attention. It's the mindset of contributing, rather than withholding, of adding value wherever you go. When you live this way, you stop focusing on what's missing and start realizing how much you already have to share. Abundance grows when it's shared, because every act of giving multiplies energy. It lifts both the giver and the receiver. The person who gives doesn't become poorer. They become richer in purpose, joy, and connection. Those who operate from scarcity hold back. They believe that by giving, they'll have less for themselves. But this is a misunderstanding of how abundance works. In reality, giving strengthens your capacity to receive. It opens doors you didn't even know existed. When you become someone who adds value freely, people want to connect, collaborate, and support you. Opportunities begin to flow naturally toward generous people, because they build trust and goodwill wherever they go. Giving sets you apart because it shifts your focus from taking to contributing, from self-centeredness to service. Generosity also refines your character. It keeps your ego in check and your heart open. It teaches humility, compassion, and perspective. You start realizing that abundance isn't about how much you can take from life, but about how much you can give back. Every time you give, you reinforce the belief that there's enough for everyone. You replace fear with faith. Faith that what you give will return to you in unexpected ways. The timing and form of that return may vary, but the law of reciprocity is always at work. Life rewards those who give without keeping score. Giving also expands your sense of gratitude. When you give, you acknowledge your blessings. You recognize your position as someone capable of helping, contributing, and creating change. This recognition deepens your appreciation for what you have, and that appreciation draws in more good. Gratitude and generosity feed each other. The more you give, the more grateful you feel. And the more grateful you feel, the more willing you are to give. Generosity is not a transaction, it's a way of thinking. It says, I am abundant enough to share. When you make giving a natural part of your life, abundance stops being an idea and becomes your reality. You begin to experience the joy of seeing others rise. The fulfillment of adding meaning to their lives, and the quiet confidence that there will always be more to give.